Well, good afternoon, everybody.
Hi there.
Hi
Good
there.
afternoon.
Welcome to the Move the Stairs Friday conversation. Hey, this week we are going to be talking about communicating with the media in a COVID-19 world. Huge conversation topic right now, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and a
I'm
nice
Sarah,
little,
what don't you do, right?
right.
There's a
It's a
long
nice
list.
return to our roots after something we had never done before last week. And before we get into our conversation today, big shout out and round of applause for our technical director, Sarah Beatty, for getting us through the World Lung Cancer Day last
Woohoo!
weekend.
She's
We
amazing.
previewed on our Move the Stairs Friday chat. So
Don't try to hire her. I will not let it happen.
It was
Don't even think about it.
it was such a tremendous event. Now, we talked about this last week, and it was such a great event because we produced 9 hours of live conversation.
Although you did not schedule bathroom breaks. I just have to put that
I did
in.
not, and that was an oversight on my part.
Wow, was
And
that alerting?
that won't happen again. 9 hours is a smidge long to go. But
I'm
that's
way too
one of
old
those
for that.
what's one of those learnings that we came away from last week with and raised almost $40,000 for Lung Cancer Foundation of America. And they've actually had donations rolling in after the event, views of the conversations rolling in after the event. And then, Jordan, you're using one of our favorite tools, Meltwater, to take a look at the overall impact in the sort of digisphere of that event, from the hashtags to the reach to how it overlays with and connects LCFA to this idea of living with lung cancer. So we're gonna debrief you on all of that information. But yeah, that was a heck of an event last week, and very.
And let me say, I think how it's relevant today is the media training that we have done with all of those Speakers Bureau members. I mean, they knocked it out of the park as
Yes.
far as their presentations. And I think so much of that had to do with the training, how comfortable they were, how easy they were on camera. It was a blast. It was very fun.
it really was. It's a great tie-in to what we're going to be talking about today. I mean, between everything we did behind the scenes, you, Sarah, Diane, and I did an excellent job, I thought, hosting the event. It was a lot of fun. And a lot of that preparation comes from stuff that people are going to learn today.
Exactly. You want to tell us more about that, Jordan?
Yes, we're going to break today down into 15-minute mini conversations, just like we normally do. So for the first 15 minutes, we're going to be talking about how you can prepare ahead of time for when your phone rings, right here, and it's media on the other end, and they want to talk to you. So what does your messaging look like? Are you in a position where you've already start to build relationships with media? And should you start building those relationships with media? Sometimes it's good. Sometimes you just want to, step back and be there if they need you, but not necessarily be the first person they call. In 15 minutes past the hour, we're going to tell you about how you can use your business or your brand as an example for others to follow, because hey, you're ready to answer the call. And this is where we're going to be talking about the MNC3. Some of you may be familiar with the MNC3. Others, this may be your first time hearing about it, but it's something you're going to want to have a pen ready to go to write those down. Very
download
important.
the one sheet.
Exactly. We have that ready to go for you as well. Coming up at 30 minutes past the hour, we're going to be talking about what to do when inevitably the phone does ring and a member of the media is on the other end wanting to talk to you to get your side of the story, albeit controversial or not. You want to be prepared to talk to them. Then finally, at 45 minutes past the hour, we're going to walk you through a scenario and how you should be prepared before you go into an interview. What questions should you know how to answer already? How should you be dressed? How can you move the conversation to an area that you are familiar with and prepared to answer those questions? So it's going to be a lot we're going to be talking about here over the next 55 minutes. Diane?
So it's really, when you're done listening to this, you're really going to feel much better about having tactics and tips on how to finesse your way through a potentially difficult situation, through preparation and execution. So we're really excited about this. It's one of the things that we pride ourselves on. It's one of the pillars of our company. And remember, we were on the other side asking the questions because we're all former journalists. And so I think we bring a very interesting perspective, and I hope it's going to be something that's really going to help you today. So if you're joining us live on Facebook, please jump into the conversation. Send us your questions and comments because we really want to answer them live. That would be great. And if you're joining us later, email us comments or post on our website. We will answer every one of them, I promise, because we're very excited about it. And Sarah, you already talked about the downloadable one sheet that we have with every episode. And so make sure to grab that on our website. So go to our website, which is communications.com. And it's going to be available on our Move the Stairs Friday Chat blog, which Jordan puts up about an hour after we're done here. And we get it all loaded up to YouTube and all the things that we do to make sure that we can get you the information so that you have something that's very easy that you can refer to. And that not only have you gone through it, but in a page or two, it's going to spark all the things that we talked about, and you're just going to ace the interview, and it's going to be great. So let's get started.
All right. Thanks so much, Diane. And thank you for pointing that out because it's not up yet, but it will be shortly once we wrap up here. So right. Number one, I previewed this already, but as a business owner or maybe a brand ambassador, how do you successfully prepare yourself ahead of time for when the phone rings and a member of the media is on the other end and they're looking for an interview, whether it's controversial or not? You need to know what your messaging looks like. If you can be prepared for that, then you're going to be in a position where you can not only answer the call, but also give them a really good interview, which will set you up in the future as well. But are you in a position right now where you've already started to build relationships with the media? I think that's a little different depending on which sector you may work in. And should you start? I think these are all great questions that we can really dive into here in this first segment. What do you think, Diane?
Absolutely. And remember, we're always talking about moving the stairs. And moving the stairs means you look at whatever situation is given to you, and you get really creative and you think how you can make it work to your advantage. The story real quick is I was a field producer for the first time. It was John McCain's, second election. We knew he was going to win. When I got to the ballroom, I realized that I was not going to get that interview first after he gave his acceptance speech. In fact, he was going to walk to the other side of the ballroom where my competition was. And when I looked at the podium and I looked at the riser, there were these huge stairs that were bolted into the riser going to my competition. So I unbolted them and I moved the stairs to my side so that when he entered and when he exited, he came straight to my station and we got it first. That first interview made a difference in my career. What we try to do is make a difference in your business and make a difference in what we do every day by looking at whatever the situation is and saying, what can we do that would be just a little bit different that can give us an edge? And that's called Move the Stairs. And when you're ready for the media, when they call you, you'll be able to move the stairs with your interview.
I think that's a great point. And really what this boils down to, unsurprisingly, is because we've talked about it several times already, is be ready. Be ready ahead of time. This means that you are not discussing what messaging you're going to try to communicate as you're answering the phone to the media. You're not discussing messaging maybe about masks or other, sort of difficult, challenging topics as you're in a heated conversation with a client or a customer or an employee in the middle of the office, right? You get ready ahead of time and make sure that you have a very clear, concise, thought out plan, message, process. And then think about what are the ways that you might convey that messaging. Do you need signage? So right here in the office, when you walk in the front door, there's a sign that says, here's our policy for COVID. There's hand sanitizer on the front. When you walk in the front door, you stop and you sanitize your hands. We wear masks in the office unless the door is closed, which it is right now in the conference room. So you're setting the expectation upon walking in the door. Here's how this is going to happen. And that's done with signage. Maybe you do it with social media. Maybe you're, a business where you're welcoming lots of people in the door and they keep track of you on social media. So you're going to want to let them know. Again, I'm thinking of COVID type communications right now. Here's what our policy is. Here's what you're going to expect. Here's what we're going to ask you to do. And you've got social media to cover all of that. For World Lung Cancer Day last weekend, we worked with Lung Cancer Foundation of America to prep a whole bunch of social media ahead of time so that people knew what the event was, what we were doing, who was participating in it, what they might see when they tuned in at a particular time, when they're somebody that they knew, an advocate, was going to be live demonstrating something, and then what they were going to be demonstrating. Hey, Terry Conran is going to talk about her just wild and crazy family fantasy football draft, which was if you haven't seen that, you guys might have to go and take a look.
I just want to say this because people are like, why would that have anything to do with lung cancer? It was about living with lung cancer, how people are living their lives beautifully while they are lung cancer patients. So that's how fantasy football fits in there.
Yeah. But it was all conveyed on social media. Right. You can also use blogs, which, what we do here with Move the Stairs is we have a vlog, VLOG, right? Which is what we're doing now. And then we post the link to our vlog, VLOG, to our blog, BLOG, right? I know it's it's like Spanish, you can almost not hear that difference. But blogs are a great way to communicate a lot of information, and they can be very focused, but also very short. We tend to not write blogs much longer than, I don't know, maybe 900 to 1,200 words, just because that's a quick, less than 5-minute read for most people, and they can get all the information they need. They can get in, they can get out, harvest the information and move on and put it into practice. You can do targeted emails. This is another thing that Lung Cancer Foundation of America did in the lead up to World Lung Cancer Day. They have a wonderful mailing list. And so they notified everyone on their mailing list, hey, we are doing a social media takeover on Saturday. It starts at this time in your time zone. It's featuring all of these folks. Here's what they're demonstrating to show how they're living with lung cancer. And please join us, and you can RSVP and let us know you're going to be there through this link. And that was a wonderful email outreach.
Absolutely. I think that I want you to think about in COVID, I want you to think about people need to know what you're doing because that builds trust because it shows that you're thinking ahead. You need to know what's going on in the news. We know right now that there are a lot of issues around masks and what's happening in stores when people are approaching one another, and how are you going to handle that? Not only do you need to be able to communicate and have messaging for your employees, but if something were to happen at your place of business, you want to already know what you're going to say to the media about what you already did. So this messaging is thinking about what's going on in the world, and if something were to happen at my location, and I had to deal with the media, how could I say I put this into place, this into place, this into place, and this into place? We had thought ahead. It shows that you care. It shows that you're on top of things. It builds credibility and it fills that trust bucket. So your messaging, you need to be aware of what's going on in the world, whether we're talking the Black Lives Movement, Black Lives Matter, whether we're talking about masks, whatever is controversial out there. How could that impact you? And how can you think about what am I going to say when you're sitting at your desk before you get that phone call? Very, very important.
And you bring up the mask thing, Diane, and I'm glad you did because you sense a theme here. We have already talked about masks on our Move the Stairs Friday chat because of how polarizing of a topic it is right now.
And it only gets more polarizing, right? I mean,
exactly. I mean, the social media videos are just nonstop with the mask stuff happening at retailers right now, and it's important to be ready for that. But speaking of the media and seeing what's out there and seeing what's being covered, I think now's a good time to take a look at what relationships do you already have with the media, if any. Is now a good time to start? Are you engaging with them on Twitter? Are you engaging with them on Facebook? I think at the very least, for your particular sector, it's important to know that who is covering that, whether it's print media, whether it's TV media, whether it's radio, whether it's an individualized special blog, like a trade publication. You have to know who those people are so that when you know when they come calling or they come knocking, you already kind of have an idea of how they write, how they tell their story, so that you can be prepared to not only help them, but also potentially build a meaningful relationship ahead of time. So maybe you're the go-to person when they have a question to ask. So you position yourself maybe as a thought leader down the road, but at the very least, if you don't have that relationship yet, you know who they are, you know how they write, you know if they have a lean one way or the other, and you can better prepare your business and your brand for when they come calling.
Absolutely. So now let's go to topic 2. How can you best use your business or brand as an example for others to follow? This is a great opportunity for you to position yourself as a thought leader in whatever industry that you're in. If you're in the CBD industry, if you're a dispensary, how are you a thought leader there? If you have thought through things like masks, things like social distancing, things like Black Lives Matter and how you're going to handle that situation, whatever comes tomorrow, geez Louise, things like we just had a new hurricane forecast, right? And the number of hurricanes are supposed to be record level. If you are in an area that is hurricane prone, do you know and have a plan for what you're going to do? And if something happens to your business, heaven forbid, how are you going to tell the media about how you and your employees were prepared, how you were worried and you considered what you would do for the safety of the clients that were in your building? What kind of plans did you have? This gives you an opportunity in what could be a disastrous or crisis situation to really find a bit of a silver lining and to build more trust and to build more customer loyalty. And all of that builds brand protection. So that's what we're going to talk about next.
I want to jump in here really quick because you like itched the meteorologist part of my brain.
That's a very dangerous thing to do. Just
right. You mentioned hurricane. Right. So when the Climate Prediction Center came out with their forecast here for the next month or so, they left out a small chunk of Arkansas and Louisiana as not being warmer than average, because they're concerned about the Gulf of Mexico being as warm as it is, and that particular part of the country getting colder and wetter weather from tropical systems. So while that's not something that a non-meteorologist would look at and say, hey, maybe we should act on this, but if I live in that area, it's maybe things like that, specialized reports I'm following from local media that I'm starting to think about as a business owner. How can I look at that and better prepare my business or brand for if that scenario was to unfold? Okay, let's get back on track.
Okay.
Wow, that was a deep dive into the Gulf of Mexico with Jordan.
What is going on in your area that's going to impact your business? Right. That while it could be a negative, you can move the stairs and turn it into a positive. And that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah. Well, so here we are on topic 2, being an example. And I would say, again, we're going to just beat this all day long here. Be prepared. Make sure that your spokesperson is prepared. Make sure that you have done your research. So here's what we tell people. When the phone rings and reporter ABC says, hi, I want to talk to you about something. You go, oh, that's great. Thank you so much. Tell me what you're looking for. Let me find some information on that, and I will call you back in 15 minutes, right? Because you want to make sure that you're responsive, find out what they want to talk about, and then you want to get off the phone so that you have a minute to think. You have a minute to go, what is my messaging on this? I'm going to look up this reporter if I don't know him or her already. I'm going to make sure that I've reviewed their social media, that I've looked at the last, handful of articles that they've written, that I understand if there is a bubbling issue here that they're coming to me for, Is this now, all of this, as Diane just pointed out, might yet be an opportunity, even if there's danger with it. But it's only going to be an opportunity if you are really, really well prepared. If your messaging is ready to go, your media training is ready to go, your research into this particular reporter and our outlet is ready to go. And then what we tell people, what we tell our clients is, as you're getting prepared, think of the absolute worst question that a reporter could ask. What is the one question that you're like, oh, I hope they don't ask that? And start there. Start there and figure out your answer to the absolute worst question that they can have. Diane, you talk people through that better than anyone. Explain why that's so important.
Well, because they very well could come in to talk to you about bee pollination, and on the way they can find out something that happened with the company or happened in the city or is happening in the state, and they have you at that point. If you're on camera, they have you, or they could even be on the phone, and while they're there, they're going to ask the question. So if you are in the know on something that's happening, you want to be prepared, because 9 times out of 10, they're going to be in the know too, or somebody's going to text them or send them a message, or they're going to see something on social media that's going to spark that. So I want you to always think about, what is the worst thing that they could ask you? And if you think the story is on bee pollination, that's fabulous, and you're a farmer and this is a wonderful thing. But if you know that you've had a listeria outbreak, or that your industry's had a listeria outbreak, or something's going on nationally with your with whatever the produce is, or there's an immigration issue that's going on, I mean, you really have to think about, what else could they ask me so I can be ready, just so you don't get caught flat-footed. Jordan?
Yeah, and I just want to point out, most of the time, and I would say 99% of the time, it's not going to happen to you. And Diane's telling you this to try and scare you, but we want you to be prepared. You know, be on top of social media. You check Twitter. Twitter's, let me tell you something. Twitter has saved my butt so many times, because you see things happen on Twitter and they pop up so quickly, and things may change from the moment that you schedule that interview with a reporter to when they show up at your business. So if you can stay on top of that and have a question prepared just in case, it's going to save you a whole world of hurt. Trust me.
It sounds like it's very in-depth research. It's not.
No.
Not in-depth research. It really is jumping onto Twitter, jumping onto Facebook. Reddit is another place to go to see what the heck is going on. When you put in, let's say you're a farmer, and you put in something on Reddit, you're going to see what's going on. You're going to see what news of the day is. You just need to know the news of the day as much. And then if there's something that you know that's going on that really hasn't broken yet, we always prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And so an extra 10 minutes of prep can save you in a big way, because you're ready and you're not caught flat-footed. And that's the key. And actually, what we find is, when we have, it doesn't matter who the reporter is, we have somebody call for any of our clients, we do a quick brainstorming session. Is there anything else that's going on out there that we need to make sure they're ready for? And again, it's probably no longer than 10 minutes, if that we do it, but we just think out of the box so that we're ready, so that they're in a position to really shine in a leadership way, and to show that they're very well versed in whatever it is, and that they're ready to go. And it can be a very short answer, which then we're going to talk to you about bridging. It can be a very short answer to getting back to where you thought the interview was going, but you want to be prepared for that. So that's something to always think about.
So we use this term, we call it the MNC3, and I love this imagery. So when you are talking to the media, you're on camera now, or you're on the mic, or you're on record. And by the way, when are you on record?
Always.
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 We need a jingle about that. You
know? From the minute the reporter shows up at your place of business, office, farm, ranch, whatever, from the minute anybody around you has a cell phone where they can just hit record, from the minute you pick up the phone You are on the record. Anytime you are anywhere near a reporter, you are on the record, period.
And now, unfortunately, it's not just with reporters. Anytime you're out in public, you're on the record.
Right. Anytime you're near anyone with a phone, cell phone, smartphone. So the MNC3 is so like right now, you kind of visualize, I've got the laptop up here and I'm talking to my laptop.
I know who I'm going to be now.
And you visualize.
Sarah?
What? I'm sorry. You visualize the MNC3. Right? Who is it? It is you're talking to your best friend. So you're so excited and your eyes are so excited and you're thrilled to see you. And oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in so long.
Right? Yeah, you're leaning in. You're just, you're thrilled to be with them.
Yeah. You are talking to your worst enemy.
That'd be Jordan. He's the worst enemy guy.
Yeah. It is the person who will take anything you say out of context, just to do it, just to twist your words, just to make you sound or look or feel like an idiot. So that's the person that you want to think, I need to watch what I say. I need to be very careful and precise in what I'm saying. As friendly as I am, so excited to see my great friend, I'm also thinking my worst enemy is right behind her. And she will twist anything I have to say and turn it into something that I don't mean to convey. That'll get me off message. The third person is
your grandmother. Fine, that's me.
But you're talking to your grandmother. No, we're going to talk to my grandmother because my grandmother, bless her heart, called me and asked me about the television news business all the time. And I had to try to explain to her, what was going on behind the scenes. And I had to do it using words that she understood because she didn't understand OTS and punch in and, a package and
all those words,
she like none of that. So you are thinking about the language you're using and you're using very friendly, direct, approachable language that doesn't leave anybody thinking, I'm not really sure what she's saying. I don't know what she's talking about. This is where, just for a quick example, so in the TV news business, we talk about a shooter, right? Mm-hmm. What do we mean? A photographer, a videographer. I left the news business and I started in educational publishing. And I said at one point, we need to get a shooter for this. And the room went silent. Oops. And someone pipes up and says, in the education industry, we never, ever would use that word. And I went, point taken. So, you won't run into a situation like that very often, but just think about your language, that it's really approachable, really direct. You're talking to your grandma so that she can understand the information that you're trying to convey to her.
Well, and we work with doctors all the time, obviously, because we almost always have a medical nonprofit that we're working with. And we tell the doctors, you don't have to dumb it down. That's not what we're talking about here. But if you need to use a long term, TIA is transient ischemic attack from my years in stroke. What that means is that there's a blood clot in your brain. And if you think about the sink and the pipes under your sink and how the pipes clog up, that's what happens in your brain when you have a TIA and then it opens, then the pipes open all of a sudden. So it's not a real big one, but you have that issue where everything just stopped. That's a TIA. That's a transient ischemic attack. So if I was talking and somebody asked me about it, I would define it. I would give an analogy where it's a visual where people can understand exactly what I'm talking about. And then I've used it. I've been able to show my expertise in the area, but I've also been able to include them in a conversation and they understand instead of I'm now 2 paragraphs down and they're trying, what the hell what did she just say? So just want to make sure that you're very careful with that. And again, I have a real problem with this, with the whole thing of, really dumb it down. It's not about dumbing it down.
No.
It's about using the words that you want to use, but then if you need to use them, explain them and then go on with what you're saying and try to use some type of a visual analogy so people understand.
because you're trying to bring people into the conversation as opposed to keeping them out of the conversation. That's what jargony language does. It keeps people out of the messaging that you're trying to convey. So MNC3, really quickly, your best friend, and that's your energy, your excitement, the happiness in your eyes, your worst enemy who can just take anything you say and twist it out of context, and your grandma, so that you're communicating in really approachable language so that anybody can understand what you're talking about. Absolutely. Topic 3, Jordan.
The phone rings. It's me. I need to talk to you right now. My story is going to air tonight at 5 o'clock on the news, and it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I need you right now.
This minute.
That's right. Whether it's on the phone, whether it's in person, I got to get this done. And, you know, that's what it's like a day in the life of a reporter. Right. You're on deadline. And a lot of times, if you're getting that phone call at 3 in the afternoon, they've already had a number of stories fall through on them. So they are trying to do anything they can to get their story done and meet deadline, because whether or not they talk to you, it's going on the air. So if your phone rings, the first 2 things that you should ask the reporter, and Sarah, you touched on this earlier, is number 1, what is your deadline? And we do this every single time we get a media request for one of our clients, because not only do we want to respect the reporter's time, but we also want to make sure that our clients are adequately prepared to answer any of those questions that may come up, a la our conversation about 10 minutes ago when Diane was talking about be prepared to answer the question you don't want to answer. So number 1, what is your deadline? And number 2, what questions do you have for me, so that not only can I prepare for you, but if I don't know those, I can get back to you with those answers. And Sarah, you brought this up, in 15 minutes or so. So those are the 2 things as a reporter I can probably count on one hand how many times that actually happened in my life.
I have to say, last night I was watching Channel 9, and Marshall Zellinger was doing a story on how they were trying to move football, the impact of moving high school football to spring. And I apologize, I can't remember
if you were watching out of state, Channel 9 is in Denver, Colorado.
Right. Thank you for saying that. Yes.
And there was a big announcement.
Right. Yesterday was a big announcement that all high school was moving their football to the spring. And how does that affect seniors? Mm-hmm. And the anchor was nice enough to say to Marshall, this came out really late, and I know you've called a number of people, and you're going to tell us what you have been able to find out so far. It was clear to me that he probably got the story at 4, and this was a 6 o'clock newscast. And so he talked about the people who got back to him, and he talked about the people who get back to him, who should have been prepared to get back to him. And he didn't put it that way, but certainly you get the feeling like these are organizations that were seriously involved in making this decision. So why wouldn't they have been ready? We lost Jordan.
We lost Jordan.
Oh, anyway,
so he'll be back.
He'll be back. Absolutely. So I think that's really, really important. Is that helping that reporter out is part of the whole relationship thing. There's Jordan again. But also making sure that you're prepared for whatever the questions are. But it is true. I mean, I cannot tell you the number of reporters who I know who got stories at 3:30, 4 o'clock, and they have to turn it for a 6 o'clock show, or 3:30 and their deadline to hit the web was 3 o'clock. How fast does that have to happen? So they're literally getting out at a crisis situation, and the people are in their ear saying, we need you live, we need you live, we need you live, and they don't even have any information. So all these things, that's the life of the reporter. A little bit of behind the scenes, it's tough. It's very tough, and it's even tougher now than it ever has been. So if you can help them by being prepared, you're going to look good and they're going to look good. And that's a win in a lot of situations.
And if you do what you say, right? So if you tell a reporter, I'm going to get more information and I'm going to call you back in 15 minutes, and then you do it, right? Like, we talk a lot about building relationships, and we talk about authenticity in building relationships. And even if you don't have the information they're looking for, or you can't help them, or you're not the right people to talk to, or you can't speak because of a lawsuit or any number of reasons, if you do what you say you're going to do, and you call them back in 15 minutes and say, here's what I've got for you, here's how I can help you, and I can't help you on these, but maybe you should talk to someone else. We do that a lot, when we
did it. Yesterday I had a reporter who called who needed to talk to one of the farmers that we represent at Rocky Ford Growers Association, Michael Viricata. She really wanted to talk to Michael. Michael's in the fields literally picking the cantaloupe. This is a terrible
15
time,
hours a day.
right? So really, from sun up to sundown, he is out there. But she was on deadline for yesterday. So I said to her, I need 1 hour. I will call you back in 1 hour. Tell me exactly what the angle is. Let me see what I can do here. But I will let you know in 1 hour, one way or the other. If I don't have Michael, I will try to have 2 or 3 other options for you. But and then I set an alarm on my phone so that I remember, so that it goes off on when that 1 hour is. It reminds me. I said I'd call her back. And I had just literally gotten what she needed 2 minutes before that alarm went off. But if I hadn't, I still would have called her back and said, I'm still working on this. I know you're on deadline. I don't know who else you're calling. Also, when I didn't know whether I was going to be able to get him, I came up with 3 or 4 other places that I thought she could call, because trying to get a farmer out of the field when this is his time is very, very difficult. He ended up doing it, which was great. But the point was, she knew that I was thinking about her. She knew I was trying to help her. She's going to call us again because she knows that when she calls, she's going to get respect. She's going to get somebody she can count on. There's accountability. And she's going to get someone who cares that we want to get her the interview, because we want our people, for the most part, to be interviewed, which is something we're going to talk about next week. But go ahead.
Yeah.
A little teaser.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to hang tight here because I think Jordan's having internet challenges today.
Oh,
but I know he's frozen. He's just
frozen.
We can talk about him.
Well, he was the mean guy, remember?
That's true. That's true. The other thing, and this is, again, part of relationship building, but the other thing that we always work with our clients to do, he's back.
Oh, there he is.
Yay, is we try to accommodate them. Try to make sure that if you need to have a big press conference, it's a huge event, that you've got a good location, that you've thought through parking, that you've got a decent background for their live shots, so that they have a place that is safe, that looks good for the live shots, that reflects well on our clients, is also one of the things that we're thinking. And we've gone so far as to move a fire truck in front of a wall of porta potties to make sure that there was a better background than a wall of porta potties. But
and to respect the people who were going in and out of the porta potties.
Right. Nobody. Yeah.
Live shot. Yeah. Nobody was.
Nobody needs that information. But you also should think through things like, speaking of restrooms, is there access to restrooms? We've been working through this with a number of reporters recently who, because of COVID and corporate regulations, are not allowed to enter buildings. And so, we have, we know who those reporters are. We know what the regulations are. We know when the regulations have changed. And, so we're able to accommodate, hey, what do you need inside? I know you can't get in. We can go shoot that if you need, this stuff in this particular location. Or, hey, if you need a restroom, the closest one is, right here, or, whatever the case may be. We also tend to show up and make sure that we've got a bottle of water. It's kind of touchy right now, obviously, with COVID, but with one particular client, they have, a bar. So we can make sure that, a cocktail server can bring a glass of water with the gloves and the mask and the whole thing to the reporter. So you're just thinking about those things, because these folks, right, Jordan, have been in the car, racing around, driving from location to location, going live the moment they step out of the car. Heck, half the time they're sitting in the car in a parking lot going live on their phones, as the photographer is driving to the location.
And if your location is further than your competition's location, and you want to be the thought leader,
yes,
then how can you make it worth their time to say, I'm going to go over here because I know I'm going to get what I need. I'm going to get a great sound bite. I'm going to be able to use the facility, whatever, as opposed to the one that's closer, who is your competition. And in this scenario, we're going with the assumption that you want to be on the air. So if you want to be on the air, it really is the care. We called it the care and feeding of the reporters.
Yeah.
We did it in the newsroom when we had crises. We made sure there were tents, and especially if we're going to be out there for days and days. We're in Colorado, where literally in the spring, you can have an 80-degree day and you can have a blizzard the next day. That is not uncommon here. So how do you make sure that your people are taken care of? Because if you want them to work and do the best job possible, then that's what you want to do. Same situation. If that reporter comes out and you've got bad weather, but you want them to come out, when they come out, are you going to have a tent up? I cannot tell you how many. I always have a tent so that we can put something up so that they're undercover, so that if there's a press conference or whatever, everybody's standing out there in the rain or in the snow. So it's those little things that they notice. They really notice, because so many people don't think that far about their comfort. And if you do that, when you think about relationships, you are really building a relationship at that point without any type of, glad handing or any of the other stuff that is yucky. This is just basic common decency. If somebody was coming to your store, what would you do for them? So you need to kind of think of them that way.
Diane, now that my connection, I think is stable.
You're
for
good now. Yes.
We got you. You talked about.
You just wanted to be on the bottom. You wanted to be in between. I know that's what was going on here.
When I was a reporter, I can't tell you how many times we go out and we cover a client in Palisade, because I worked in Grand Junction, small town, but Palisade is famous for their peaches. And oh my gosh, you bite into one and just the juice runs right up your arm. It's so good. But we remembered the farms who would say, hey, come on out, and then we'll send you with a box of peaches to take back to the newsroom. You remember those people by name. The same with the Olathe sweet corn. Wouldn't even ask. And they would send all of the media stations this delicious sweet corn grown in Olathe, Colorado. So it's things like that. And of course, you don't have to go crazy with it, but it's little things that reporters and newsrooms appreciate, and they remember you, and they remember kind of the way you go out of your way just a bit to make their reporters a bit more comfortable when they're out covering stories.
Absolutely. The one thing I would say, though, is if you're in a major city, and especially for print press, do not want to send anything because they can't accept it. And there's a whole thing about payola, which I don't know how you get a story from peaches, but that's a whole other issue. Anyway, the bottom line is that they have very strict rules. So broadcast is much different in most cities than print is as far as what you can do. But if somebody's on site, certainly don't you want them eating your peach? Or, I don't know so much about whether you want them taking CBD or an edible or whatever. You might want to think about that. But the point is that you want to take good care of them, and you want to treat them kindly.
Part of the research, too, is knowing this background. So we know all of the media outlets and all of the kind of different things, here in the Colorado area in particular, and also in Arizona and some other places. But, regarding that payola thing, like, you would absolutely make everybody comfortable and make sure that they have access to a restroom and water and those kind of things.
Absolutely.
I would never offer anything to public radio reporters or some of the new online journalism outlets that have very strict, and it's written out and it's in their bylaws and it's on their website. Like, we will not accept anything over the value of a cup of coffee. And we know who those outlets are.
Right.
So, when they show up to a client event, and we had one of these about a month and a half ago, where we got everybody. We got the broadcast media, we got the public radio media, we got print media. And because we have done the research and we know the background on all of those reporters, we knew exactly how to interact with those reporters. There were some that, they were like, hey, could you help me get this or that? And I'm like, sure, you bet. I'll get you so and so, and they'll talk about XYZ. Public radio is like, I need to get this, and here's what I need from you. I'm like, you bet. I'm not going to suggest a thing because public radio is not interested in my suggestions, but I'm going to accommodate what you need, and I'm going to make it happen. So that's just part of the research and the background in knowing who you're talking to and what are the strictures that they operate under. What about next week? Oh my gosh, we've got a great conversation coming up, although it's going to be you guys.
Yeah, Sarah's on vacation. So good for Sarah because she worked so hard on LCFA. And
sleep for a week.
Deserves the week. Okay, so next week, we're going to talk about when you don't talk to the media. When do you make the decision that I'm not going to talk? And yet, how do you prepare to not talk? Ooh, that's kind of interesting. It's kind of an oxymoron.
When public relations means staying out of the media.
Yeah, so when public relations means staying out of the media, and how do you go about that? And what are the nuances associated with that so that you do that the right way? So that's what we're going to talk about next week. I'm really looking forward to that. It'll be interesting.
I'm actually kind of jealous that you guys get to do that because that is one of my favorite topics. But
it is. It's a very important topic because it can, from a public relations standpoint, it can be just as important to stay out as to get the people to come and talk to you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, our last topic, and this, guys, we could go as we do. We could go on and on. We can go in depth. We do media training all the time. We do half days. We do full days. Like, we can talk about media training best practices all day long.
And we can do groups, which is really nice. So we can do groups, and we always do one-on-ones, which is, I think, the best part of the whole thing. So that you really get, and we ask really hard questions.
Oh yeah, we seem so nice and so friendly, but by the time we're done, you're kind of glad to see us pack it up for the day. But in the 13 minutes that we have left, let's talk about our best practices. And this is going to be the lightning round. We're going to rock and roll through this because there's a lot of stuff, and it appears on this downloadable one sheet, the best practices that is attached to the blog post in the blog section of our website. But let's go through it really quick. I'm going to go through the ladies really quick, best practices. I'm going to have Jordan go through the fellas. Ladies, let's talk about your dress and your makeup and all of that first. And I don't want anybody to feel concerned or that they have to run out and they've got to get a haircut and they've got to go. That's not what we're talking. Anytime that you're interviewed on the air, on television, or you have photos taken, you want to make sure that you're not shiny. That's what we're going for. That you're clean, you're professional, you've got nice makeup that you wear all the time. You've got maybe a little bit more lipstick than usual, but you look fresh and rested and yourself.
Which is really hard because you're stressed to the max when you're
right. So that's when you carry this stuff in your purse and you make sure that you get a little update and a little fresh lipstick before
always fresh lipstick and always small earrings. That's what I have to say.
I agree completely.
Will make all the difference. Yep.
All the difference in the world. No short sleeve tops, and here's why. If I have a short sleeve top that ends right here, that is ending at the widest part of my arm. That is not a flattering look, and it's not a professional look. So it doesn't have to be, again, it doesn't have to be real fancy, but you've got a long sleeve top on. This is linen. It's hotter than blazes today. So you can wear certainly a lighter fabric and make it appropriate for the season, but a long sleeve top. Go for a little bit of color. What I've got on here is sort of a blush, it kind of goes with the whole deal. I've got a little pop of color here, that's actually our M&C green. I don't know if you noticed that. Diane does the same thing very often with the M&C green. She's got beautiful malachite beads and a necklace. So a little pop of color, but not like, high visibility jacket color. That's not where we're headed, unless that's where you're headed.
Not print. Don't do a print. Just be safe. Just do a solid.
Yeah, no stripes, no tight prints, nothing that makes the camera kind of go, oh, God, golly. And ladies, Jordan, plug your ears. Ladies, I want you to notice that I have a top on that comes to my collarbone. So what happens is when you have a scoop neck t-shirt or a V-neck t-shirt and you are, say you're a checker at the grocery store and you're reaching over, it's a little revealing. So, I always go with a high neck shirt. You can go with a button down where you get the button, button to here. And then keep your ears closed, Jordan. The unmentionables, guys, this is, again, one of the things I go through all the time because I seem to have to deal with this all the time. Make sure that your top fits, your bra fits, you don't have lumps, you don't have bumps, you're not dragging attention to places where you do not want attention. My eyes are up here. So that's where you want the attention to go. You don't want it on a crazy outfit or a lumpy bra or a sliding bra strap or some other, malfunctioning business. It just takes the emphasis off of what you're trying to communicate, which is your message.
Right.
Jordan, the fellas.
Fellas, listen up because this is going to be quick, really quick, because we don't have to.
Oh no!
Oh no, he's frozen again. Don't make me talk about the fellas.
There he is. Okay, you froze. Your signal's going in and out. Yeah. So let's try one more time. If not, then I'm going to have ask Sarah to take this. And
I was going to say, feel free to jump in if it goes out again.
All right, here Jordan, I'm gonna boot you from the feed. Call back in when your Wi-Fi is figured out. So for gentlemen, again, we're looking at shine. If you are on camera all the time, go to or have your gal or your friend or whoever go to Target and get a shine powder. There's no color to it. It's not a makeup, but it's in the powder department, and there's just a shine powder that will stop the shiny forehead, if it's hot out and if you're standing in a parking lot. It's just a translucent powder to take down the shine. Make sure that you've got, clean shaven, depends on whether you have a beard or a stubble. If you are going for the stubbly look, make sure it's clean, it's fresh, it's trimmed, it's not crazy, like lumberjack beard. And if you have a crazy lumberjack beard, make sure that that is well tamed and looks good and clean and fresh. Depending on what your style is. I'm gonna get personal again, fellas. Check your fly, check your fly, check your fly. I can't tell you how many times and how many stories we have from people of fellas who have presented checks, the donation, checks of
none of our clients, though. None of our clients.
No. And we were talking to somebody who's like, yeah, I didn't realize as I was doing this that my fly was undone. So check your fly, gentlemen. And the other thing, and Jordan, we go through this, he's frozen. Oh no, wait, he's back. Hand check. At this point in the age we're living in, gentlemen, I would suggest that if you are taking pictures, if you are a politician, if you are a public figure, if you have a reputation that depends on your public persona, if you're taking pictures of people, especially women, I think you keep your hands to yourself. If it is a great friend, your wife, if it is someone that you are near and dear and close to, you get to touch them between the top of their shoulder and the middle of their arm when you've got your arm around them, not under the rib cage, terrible, but right there on the, if you put your arm around them, you get to touch them between the top of the shoulder and the juiciest part of their arm, and that's it. I think you're safest not touching anyone, and you just have your hands, comfortably in front of you, or maybe you've got them clasped behind you. You're kind of mirroring their body language. You might be leaning forward a little bit. Poor Jordan is.
No, he's having a bad day.
So hand check, fly check, and just be really, really careful.
Yep. And we want you to remember that you're going to stick with those 3 main points. So when you're doing your message points, we want you to have 3 main points. During COVID, empathy is always going to start your messaging. So you're always going to do that. Then I want you to have 3 main points, and I want you to stick to them. We have had in the past very recently, we've been working with a group where they got the main point out, and then they said, and well, and the and is where they got in trouble. It's if you just stick with your points.
And another thing,
right? Yes, it just and if you have an analogy, run it by somebody before you use it. Always run it by a third party, a second party, whatever. Run it by someone. It's really, really important to do that because you do not you want somebody else's perspective on what you're saying, because what you're thinking you're saying and what you're saying, especially as Sarah said, in the world that we live in, we have to be very, very careful about. So that's really important. Jordan,
well,
you have one of the most important parts, and I'm just really hoping that you can do it here because it's probably the most important thing that we teach.
Yeah, I'm hoping so too. It's bridging. It's, how to go from a difficult question that a reporter may ask you without disregarding the question, because you never want to do that, because then it makes you look like you're dodging it. But it's how do you acknowledge a reporter question, but also cross a river to bring it back to your side, maybe one of those three main message points that Diane just pointed out. So, what might be a good example of that? If you were to say something like, it sounds like you're trying to ask me this. If you get a question out of the blue, and maybe it's a little off topic, but also somewhat relevant, that's a great question. And I'm so glad you asked it. Maybe how I can, help you is if we discuss this, or maybe we should talk about these numbers, something along those lines, to bring the conversation back to an area that you're comfortable with without totally dismissing the question the reporter may be asking you. Hopefully that got out okay.
Yeah, it did. I think answering with the shortest possible answer when it's a question that's a difficult question, honoring the question, answering with the shortest possible answer, and then saying, but here's something that your viewers, your readers, your listeners might want to know. Boom, now you're back on your message points.
Right.
So you never want to not answer for the most part. I should not say never on that, but most of the time you want to acknowledge and give some type of a very short answer to a question. I would not answer a hypothetical. I would definitely say, fortunately, we don't do hypotheticals, but here's something I can tell you, and I'm now back on my message points again. So it's very smooth, but I would be remiss if I said that you shouldn't answer it, because you want to try to always honor that question, because you want to have the credibility that you answered it. But what you want those viewers and listeners to remember is the message point that you're going back to. And if you do it well, 9 times out of 10, the reporter will not have a problem with it. If you evade a question completely, then you're going to have a problem, because they're going to come back at you time and time again. So that's
right.
very good. And then Sarah, you want to talk quickly about flagging, because we have
very quickly. Flagging is something that that we relied on in the news business, because I was transcribing interviews all the time. And when I heard an interviewee say, "Hey, the really important thing is," I would drop out of listening to it at double speed, and I would listen and I would transcribe that. "Hey, what I really need you to know is the most important thing about my widgets are," so it's those phrases. You are flagging the most important information. What's really critical for your viewers to understand is that we are doing this and this and this. And it's so important that they understand everything that we're doing to protect the public from the marauding spaghetti monster, whatever it is. So flagging is just a verbal cue. Guys, pay attention, listen to me. This is what's important.
Absolutely. So in our last minute, I just want to thank you so much for joining us on the MNC Move the Stairs chat, which we do every Friday at noon. Remember, next week, we're going to talk about when PR means keeping yourself out of the news. That's really important. So we hope you'll join in next week. Send us your comments. Thank you to everybody who's commented while we were talking. It was great to see you guys. Laura and Patty and Nicole. Oh my gosh. Fabulous to see all of you. Thank you so much. Today. Yes, it was. It was great. And we hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy it. We'll talk to you soon.